Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today we're going to make some cute birthday cards using some layering stamps. And I don't have many layering stamps. I have a few flowers, but not any as detailed as these from Impression Obsession. I was so excited to go to the stamp show this year in West Springfield, Massachusetts and purchase some of these, but they were sold out. So a couple months ago, I actually found them online and ordered them, and I will link those up below. So we have these in with these layering stamps. What you're going to do is stamp in layers. So you start off with your biggest stamp, at least this is the way I do it, my biggest stamp and the lightest ink. And then you go for the next stamp that has the most amount of kind of dark area, and then you layer that up with your next darkest ink. So you are working light to dark. Okay, so just kind of think about that as you're working. So then you'll put the next layer down, which will be the next one with the most amount of space. So you're working with stamps that have less and less and less area, so that each layer that you stamp on top is covering less, but it's with a darker shade. So you end up building this almost photographic looking thing when you're done. So this is an ice cream cone, and you can kind of see how the cone's got that shadowing on the side, the beautiful texture from the kind of waffly impression in the center. It's just gorgeous. I love these. And so now we're going to do the ice cream. And again, starting off with the biggest stamp, the stamp with the most solid area, we're doing that with our lightest mint green. Now, if you don't have enough colors, what you could do is you could ink it up, stamp it on a scrap, and then stamp it on your project for the lighter shade, and then use the ink full strength for your next darkest shade. So that's a great way to do it if you don't have that many ink pads. I was struggling to find enough shades for some of these, especially this mint color, that I had to go from everywhere from a yellowy, light yellowy green all the way up to like a deep teal, because that's the biggest variety I could find. You can totally mix and match your ink pads for this. I used a combination of my Memento Dewdrops, my Hero Arts cubes. You can use Distress ink cubes, any sort of dye ink you can mix and match, and it's going to be fine. After I had this all layered up, I decided to grab a sentiment and put that right underneath. And I'll die cut this later to go on my card, and I just used the classic It's Your Birthday. And I love the sentiments that comes with this set because they're all like script and fairly small, but they're big enough to make an impact on the card. This set here was the one I was the most excited to get. This is the Macaron set, and I was so disappointed when they didn't have it in their booth at the stamp show. And then I ordered on Amazon, but all I got was one sentiment because they had put the wrong photo on the listing. So this set was like a long time coming, and I was so happy when I got it. So this approach I did a little differently since I was stamping the Macaron several times. Macaron is the coconut ball thing. This is the Macaron. I decided to stamp all my first base layer with all the different colors that I wanted to use. I did get a little dark with some of them. I should have gone lighter with that brown, but you know, live and learn. So for the purple, I didn't have another purple that was a little bit darker, so I just stamped the same color on top. That will work in a pinch to give you a little layering. And I have to say that these macarons ended up way darker than they normally would be, but I didn't have enough pastel colors. But in the end, I still think it is super cute, and my daughter loved it, which is the important part. Because you know what? I think we are way too critical on ourselves. Like, I'm sure a lot of stampers are watching this going like, Lindsay, you are a hot mess. You need to get a stamp positioner because you are all over the place with those stamps. They are not lined up perfectly. But I don't care. I think it's cute. I think it looks great. It reminds me of offset printing. Kind of reminds me of like the pop art of Andy Warhol. And I think it's just joyful and fun. And I had fun stamping it, and I wasn't like fretting one bit over, well, I don't have the right color, or it's just a little bit smidgen out of place. That didn't bother me. If it bothers you, then you can use a stamp positioner, but for me, I just had fun slapping down these colors, and my daughter loved the way it came out, and that's really the end result and what I was going for. If I had one piece of advice to give new stampers, and I know I've actually given this advice many times, it would be to go with the smaller ink pads for the majority of your colors, because look at how many ink pads you have out when you're doing some of these projects. You need so many colors at your fingertips that it could be really cumbersome if you had full-size pads. So I really recommend the smaller pads, unless it's like your black and brown and colors that you use for larger images all the time. So there you go. That's my advice. So for this stamp set here, this sundae, this was probably the most complex one. I started off with a very pale blue for the glass and a very pale vanilla kind of color for the ice cream. And then I just went and layered different shades of brown on top of the ice cream to get the look of hot fudge. Now, I really should go to their website and print off a picture of one of their finished cards, because wasn't entirely sure while I was making this one that I was doing it right, but I figured I'm just gonna do it, try it, have fun. I think the best way to learn how to do something is to do it. My dad always said, you want to learn how to build a house? Build a house. That's the best way to teach you. I mean, how many times have you done a project and when you were done that project, you're like, I know exactly how I would do it next time, or I know how I do it perfectly next time. So that's what I figure. Why fret and worry and, with stamping? I mean, might as well just jump in and learn to do it by doing it. That's how I figured anyway. Now here you can see that I colored my hair. Look at that. I did that last week. I was just so sick of like dyeing my roots blonde, so I decided to dye all my hair dark. But anyway, so it kind of shows you how it's easier to line up your images when you have your head directly over it. So generally when I'm filming, I'm standing back and it's difficult to line up those layering stamps that way. Looking directly down over your project is going to make it a lot easier for you to line these up, especially if you're using stamping blocks like I do as opposed to a stamping positioner, which is expensive and takes up a lot of space. And when I'm crafting, I rarely have that space on my table to dedicate to a big stamp platform. So I finished off this card with a little white gel pen, and I also sketched in a little cherry stem with a marker and used a very pale gray marker to give it a little shadow underneath, because I felt like it needed a little bit of weight at the bottom because there was so much heavy dark stamping at the top. And you can also use that gray if you want to add some shadows into the glass if you didn't get it to begin with. And then I used that It's Your Birthday stamp from I think it was the ice cream stamp set that I did first, the ice cream cone, because I thought it looked really well and it was a birthday card. I always like to make an extra birthday card when I've got all my supplies out because you always need an extra. So this card here went to my daughter, Maisie, and that's why I was making these cards today, because it was their birthday. And I am using some really fun embellishments because it's for, teenagers. So I thought this glitter rickrack that I've had for ages in my stash from American Crafts would be perfect. And I went tone on tone because the colors on this ice cream, this card, were very pastel, so I didn't want to overwhelm it with like a really, really bright colored embellishment. So I thought that the green glitter rickrack on the green paper worked really well. And then for embellishments, I'm using these simple raw wood embellishments that I got at Dollarama when I was in Canada a couple weeks ago. These are so wonderful. I just thought a crown is perfect for a birthday card, and the heart is these are just really nice icons that are very useful. I'm so glad I picked that up because I can see myself using that on so many different cards. And then to do the next card, pretty much the same idea. I decided to kind of pick up the colors a little bit more, make them a little brighter. I found this birthday party pattern paper. I can't remember who it was from. It was in my scrap stash. And then I went with a bright yellow rickrack because I had the bright colors in the balloons, and I had more high contrast colors in the ice cream because I had that dark red cherry and the dark chocolate hot fudge, so I could handle having brighter embellishments. And then for the macarons, I decided to grab a product that I've been hoarding for a long time, this die cut felt. Now here's a cautionary tale for you. When you get beautiful embellishments, you should really use them because things can go bad. Like my mom got me a bunch of these several years ago, and it was so pretty that I didn't just want to waste it on any project, so I hoarded it, and I have a whole drawer of this stuff in different colors. And what happens is that the adhesive wants to become permanently stuck to the backing sheet, so it's really difficult to get that backing sheet off so I can use it in a card. If I had just used it when I got it, when it was like really in style and really exciting, then I wouldn't have had that issue, and I probably still would have some left over because I had a bunch of it. So it's just a little bit of a warning about overbuying and not using it, because you're not wasting it by using it on a card. That's what you bought it for. You're wasting it if it sits in a drawer and never gets used. So there you go. There's my soapbox a moment. I hope you enjoyed this. My daughters like their cards a lot, and they were really fun to make, and I'm really looking forward to using these stamps more in the future. I will link up to them at Impression Obsession in the video description, so you can find them too if you want. They're really high quality, and I really had a good time using them. Thank you so much for watching today. Please give me a thumbs up before you go. And until next time, happy crafting.